Carrying on from part 1, where we discussed the difference between fixed and variable costs, we're now going to look at why this distinction is important. Okay, so it doesn't matter what field you're working in, the distinction is critical for decision making. If you use fixed costs and variable costs incorrectly, it's quite possible you will make an incorrect decision. So we're going to assume, unrealistically, that the only costs of the Australian outback are the two that we've identified. We're going to assume that for budgeting purposes, we assume 1,000 people attend per night. Okay, so in order to explain this, we're just going to use this small example. Refer again to the cost for 1,000 people. Okay, so for 1,000 people, the cost of the meals, 1,000 times $5 per meal is 5,000. The total cost of the lighting each night is 500. So remember, we decided that the cost of meals are variable. They change in direct proportion to the level of activity, and the cost of the lighting is fixed. Okay, but if we look at per person, the cost of the meals is $5, the lighting per person is 50 cents, so the cost per person is $5.50. So at an activity level of 1,000, the cost per person is $5.50. So quick quiz. What would you expect the cost to be for 2,000 people, assuming that we're within the relevant range? Okay, we could look at 2,000 times 550, so that would be $11,000. Is this correct? No, it's not, because we are not using our fixed costs correctly. Okay, so this is using the fixed costs incorrectly, because remember, the fixed costs remain fixed. So they're $500, whether we have 1,000 people or 2,000 people. So the expected cost for 2,000 people would be $500 for the electricity, and 2,000 times 5, which is 10,000 for the meals, giving a total cost of 10,500. So this bottom sentence is now using the fixed cost correctly. Now, there are a number of common errors in describing fixed and variable costs. Okay, so I just want to make you aware of these, because the accounting for these terms, the definition for these terms in accounting have very strict definitions, and any other definition is incorrect. Common errors that even people in practice and students make are: they say a fixed cost never changes. This is incorrect. Most costs over time will change, but the definition, remember, is a fixed cost does not change in relation to a change in activity or volume. Okay? A variable cost varies with the firm's circumstances. That is also incorrect. A variable cost varies in total in relation only to the activity level. Okay, so it's very important that you understand the second sentence for both of those. A third misconception is a variable cost is not essential. The firm will decide whether it wants the cost or not. That's incorrect. Assume we're making a ham and pineapple pizza. Ham is a variable cost. If you make twice as many ham and pineapple pizzas, the total cost of the ham will be twice as high. And the ham is an essential part of a ham and pineapple pizza. Or without the ham, it would just be a pineapple pizza. Okay, so ham is a variable cost because the amount of ham that we use will vary in regard to how many pizzas we finally make. A variable cost varies with the economy, with how the business is performing, and varies over time. All of that is incorrect. So remember that a variable cost varies in proportion with the number of units. So we go back to the definition in topic 1. These definitions are very, very strict. So again, another quick quiz. The following slide lists a number of definitions explaining the difference between fixed and variable costs. Indicate whether the definitions are correct, so true or incorrect, false. So let's have a look at each of them. If a cost is $4 for each unit produced, that cost is a variable cost. That is true. Okay, so it will be $4 for each unit produced. A variable cost changes in relation to external factors. We've just seen that that's a misconception and that's false. A variable cost will change in total dependent on the management decision. That is also false. If a cost is $400 in total, regardless of how many units are produced, that cost is a fixed cost. That one's true. A fixed cost is one which is reoccurring. That is false. A variable cost, a cost that alter depending on the length of the period, that one is also false. Okay, so think back to the definitions. A fixed cost is fixed in value regardless of how many units are produced, and a variable cost is one that changes or varies in direct proportion to the number of units produced. Now, the third type of costs that we have are mixed costs, and mixed costs have both a fixed and variable component. And when we're using CVP analysis, we have to split mixed costs into fixed and variable components. So an example of a mixed cost would be, assume an advertising manager is paid as follows: a set salary of $1,000 per week plus $50 for each advertising contract that is signed in the week. Okay, so this is a mixed cost. The $1,000, the set salary, is fixed. He just gets $1,000 per week no matter what else happens. But the $50 for each contract is variable because it changes in direct proportion to the number of units signed. Okay, so that ends part 2. So in part 2, we've explained fixed costs, mixed costs, and variable costs.